Surah Al-Kahf. We stopped at verse number 13 and we'll start with verse number 13. This will be a bit of a repetition, but verse number 13 is the logical starting point of the story of Ashab al-Kahf, of the companions or the people of the cave. And as I had mentioned yesterday, verse number 9 and 10 is what I refer to as the pre-introduction to this story, the story about the Ashab al-Kahf. Verse number 11 and 12 is what I refer to as the introduction to the story. And verse number 13 is the starting point of the story proper of the story of the people of the cave, the companions of the cave, Ashab al-Kahf. نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ نَبَأَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ. We narrate to you their story, their news in truth. So this is what it says. So this is the way we would speak. And I had explained about this issue yesterday itself. So let's start from verse number 13. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We relate to thee their story in truth. They were youths who believed in their Lord and we increased them in guidance. We gave them strength to their hearts. Behold, they stood up and said, Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and of the earth. Never shall we call upon any God other than him. If we did, we should indeed have uttered an enormity. These our people have taken for worship gods other than him. Why do they not bring forward an authority clear and convincing for what they do? Who doth more wrong than such as invent a falsehood against Allah? When you turn away from them and the things they worship other than Allah, betake yourselves to the cave or retreat yourselves to the cave. For your Lord will shower his mercies on you and dispose of your affair towards comfort and ease. Thou wouldst have seen the sun when it rose declining to the right from their cave, and when it set turning away from them to the left, while they lay in the open space in the midst of the cave. I think before verse number 17, let's just highlight one more point, which which occurs many, many times throughout the Quran, and it also occurs in this particular verse. Uh, in this particular verse, فَقَالُوا رَبُّنَا رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Basically, this part, as-samawati wal ard. What is the meaning of as-samawati wal ard? Usually translated, I mean, in the English, in the standard English translations, all of the translations, it is translated as the heavens and the earth. It does not mean the heavens and the earth, and this would become a critical point of understanding if we are to understand, if we are to derive benefits from the surah, if we are to seek the surah as a means of guidance and a source of protection from the fitna of the Dajjal. This understanding of the concept of samawat and earth is pivotal to that understanding. So now the samawat, as-samawat wal ard, the samawat and the earth, it does not mean the heavens and the earth. This concept will be clarified once again. I mean, the translations will not give you any clue. The concept will be highlighted once again during our discussion on Surah Anbiya, chapter 21, verse number 30, which actually gives you the phenomena, what in today's physics terminology is referred to as the Big Bang. So it states that when the Big Bang happened, I mean, the term Big Bang is not mentioned, but it says when the Big Bang happened, basically two things were created. I mean, the verse says, do the unbelievers not see that the heavens and the earth? I mean, let's keep the translation first and then let's explain the subject. Do the unbelievers not see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation before we split them asunder? The heavens and the earth were never joined as one unit of creation. Heaven is outside this physical universe that we live in. It is besides this. It's not part of this. It's not inside of this universe. So when the Big Bang happened, and I have raised this question many, many times and I have not found an answer from anyone. When the Big Bang happened, what came into existence? What came into existence? It may sound to be a discourse on physics. I don't intend to make it into a discourse in physics because this session, the series itself, is intended to be a brief and rapid explanation. And so we'll obviously delve into this important issue in our a detailed series on Surah Al-Kahf, but we have to give you some idea. We have to take benefit out of this and use it or seek it as a means of protection from the fitna of the Dajjal in Akhirul Zaman. So, when the universe came into existence through the Big Bang, or what is referred to as the Big Bang in the terminology of physics, what came into existence? I've asked this question many times. The answers that I get is gaseous matter, or the sun, the moon, the stars, Earth, other planets, and things like that, other stars, other systems, galaxies. These are the answers that we get. But I'm not interested in that. What I tell them is think of it in more fundamental terms. And once I give you the answer, it becomes easy for you to appreciate. It becomes very easy for you to appreciate what essentially came into existence as a result of the Big Bang. And if I tell you that there are only four things that came into existence and there is not a fifth entity that came into existence, only four things. So, and those are, without just giving you more time to think about it, ponder over it, let me give you the answer so that it will expedite our explanation and the process. The four things are matter, energy, space, and time. Now, once I tell you this, there is nothing that you can think of that is not either matter, energy, space, or time. And this fact, this is a fact. There are only four things. Now, before Einstein's theory of relativity, this is what was perceived to be the state of affairs of the universe. There are only four fundamental entities or aspects of this universe: matter, energy, space, and time. And when Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, E is equal to mc squared, that matter and energy is interconvertible. So matter can convert to energy, energy can convert to matter. So we began to understand the concept of what I refer to as the matter energy continuum. The matter energy continuum. So this becomes one aspect. And the other aspect is what is referred to as the space and time. Now, space and time, if you have some knowledge of physics, physicists today, they say that it's space-time. It's different manifestations of the reality of space-time, of which we have been given the faculties by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to perceive a three-dimensional space and a one dimension of time. Three dimensions of space and one dimension of time. So a four-dimensional space-time we are able to perceive through our faculties, through our physical faculties, which we have been blessed with, which we have been bestowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are other dimensions besides these. It is very much possible that there are other dimensions that exist besides these. So space and time, we can club it together and call it as space-time, or we may call it as dimension. So we have matter energy continuum and we have dimension. So there are only two aspects that came into existence as a result of the Big Bang. And these are the two things that are being referred to in this term, samawat, as-samawat wa al-ard, and as-samawat and the ard. As-samawat refers to the dimensions and al-ard refers to the material universe, the matter energy continuum. So how profound. In 1905, and at the beginning of the 20th century, we began to understand these concepts. Previously, it was thought that these are the four fundamental aspects of the universe, and everything can be classified into one of these four aspects. But today we know that there are only two fundamental aspects, and this is what is referred to in verse number 30, clarified in verse number 30. That don't they see that before the Big Bang, everything, the samawat, the dimension, and the material universe, the matter energy continuum, was combined as one entity, and then we created the Big Bang and we created these two aspects. We created these two aspects out of it. What was before the Big Bang? The question is irrelevant. It's absurd. Time as we perceive it came into existence. I mean, the time that we have a perception of, not absolute time, not time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a difficult concept, and I don't want to delve too much into these issues in this rapid explanation. Time as we perceive it came into existence as a result of the Big Bang. So what happened? Because time came into existence, with the Big Bang, there is the question: what happened? Time itself did not exist before Big Bang. I mean, the time that we perceive, the time which we can perceive through our physical faculties. I'm talking about that time. So, what was before the Big Bang? This question itself is irrelevant. It's absurd. Time did not exist. So how can something be before time existed? So what I want to suggest is that these two fundamental aspects, the Samavat and the other dimension, and the earth, and if you don't understand the reality, so basically, Rabbuna Rabbu Samavati wal Ard, our Lord is the Lord of the Samavat and the earth, is the Lord of the dimensions and the matter energy continuum of everything. That's how profound, and this is further substantiated in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 30. This is very profound. And obviously, I've given you some highlights of this aspect, and we'll delve more into this discussion later on, inshallah. So let's go back to this portion now. Verse number 17: Thou wouldst have seen the sun when it rose, declining to the right from the cave, and when it set, turning away from them to the left. Now the sun rises where? The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So if the sun is rising from the east, and that is towards the right of the cave, and when it's setting, that is towards the. I think I should have read the verse completely, because otherwise you would not be able to appreciate if I give you the explanation, because these are explanations which are not normally heard, not normally read, not normally discussed. These are not readily available. Thou wouldst have seen the sun when it rose, declining to the right from their cave, and when it set, turning away from them to the left, while they lay in the open space in the midst of the cave. Such are among the signs of Allah. He whom Allah guides is rightly guided, but he whom Allah leaves to stray, for him thou wilt find no protector to lead him to the right way. This is a simple description of what was happening to them while they were in the cave. But my point is, such are among the signs of Allah. Some movement of the sun is discussed, and then it is mentioned, ذَلِكَ مِنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ, that is from among the signs of Allah. So my question is, what exactly is the sign of Allah that is being referred to in this verse? Amazing, isn't it? Wondrous, isn't it? No wonder the story started, Am hasibta anna ashabal kahfi wa raqimi kanu min ayatina ajaba? It's a question. Or do they think that the story of the companions of the cave and of the inscription, of the Rakim, let's keep it as Rakim, because Rakim has multiple meanings and I don't want to go into those issues in this short session. Or does they think that the companions of the cave and of the Rakim were wonders from among our signs? Yes, indeed, they were wondrous. But what is it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's easy for Him. It's so simple for Him. Basically, what exactly is the sign of Allah? The sign of Allah is if the sun is rising from the right, east, and it's setting from on the left, which is the west. So basically, the cave was opening towards the north. So what, you may question? So a lot of things. Now, this verse and the next verse will clarify a lot of things. So you see, had it been facing south, they would have received direct sunlight. And imagine they're being in a state which is different from awakeness or asleep or death. It's in a different state altogether. It's different from the state in alam al amr or alam al arwa. It's different from the state of alam al barzakh. This world itself is referred to as alam al khalq. So it's a different state altogether. And if they were to receive direct sunlight, don't you think their state, the state they were in, normally translated as they were asleep, they would have been disturbed by the sunlight, too much heat, would have caused burns maybe. So to keep the face of the cave towards the north in itself is a miracle. Now the direct sunlight was not coming to them, but only diffuse sunlight, which is essential for the production of vitamin D, etc., is we have heard the term of photosynthesis, which is necessary for plants. Uh, Human beings, they don't require this mechanism photosynthesis. Even then, they require this photolysis. Some diffuse light is actually required, and it's actually beneficial, it's healthy, uh, for a lot of factors, the details of which we cannot explore in the series. We will perhaps do so in our elaborate series on Surah Al-Kahf. So the fact that the cave was chosen for them, that they were in such a cave which faced north is in itself a miracle. And the other thing that happened because of this, and this would be highlighted again in the very next verse itself, verse number 18 itself, that because of that, if there is direct sunlight, if you are happening to pass by that road, it would have been easy for you to see them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not intend that they should be disturbed during this time. And how long? It's not yet been discussed. Not yet been discussed. And it's just mentioned they were in the cave for a number of years in the introduction, or what we refer to as the introduction, for a number of years. Sinina adada. This is verse number 11. So Allah did not want them that anyone should cause disturbance to them. That's why it was on the other side. So it's because of diffuse light, it's not very easy for anyone, if they happen to pass by that road, to just have a view of them. And moreover, this is not mentioned in the Quran, but you can get these information from commentaries, etc., from books of tafsir, etc., or other narratives, that the road that was passing by was on the south, the other side of the cave. So because the main road was on the other side, so hardly any people would take that particular route, which would be the entrance of the cave. So that is a deterrent. And secondly, the diffuse sunlight, so not much visibility. These two factors, the fact that it opened on the towards the north, and the fact that it was on the other side of the road, and the fact that if someone were to pass by, even if someone were to bypass the main road and go through that road, and why would someone do that? There is no reason. But even if someone were to do that, it would have been very difficult for them to sight these people. And so all of this combined, this is what has been referred to as dhalika min ayatillah. This is the sign of Allah. Okay. Verse number 18, thou wouldst have thought them awake whilst they were asleep. Now, I don't want to translate it as asleep. I would prefer the term ruqd. I would prefer ruqud, raqada, ruqd, ruqud. They were in a state of ruqud. Now, what exactly is ruqud? See, the term for sleep is naum. You've heard during the Fajr Azan, as-salatu khairun minan naum, that salah, prayer, is better than sleep. So the common term for sleep is naum, not ruqd. The Quran uses the word ruqud only once, and that happens to be in Surah Al-Kahf, and that's not without any reason. So it is a different state other than the states of being awake or being asleep, of being dead. It's a fourth state. It may seem to be similar to the state of a state of sleep, state of being asleep, but it's not. The word naum has been used elsewhere in the Quran a few times, but the word ruqud is used only once, and that happens to be in Surah Al-Kahf. And why? Similar to the analysis of Makithina fihi abad, which I did not give deliberately, which we would explore in our detailed discussion on Surah Al-Kahf. So if you think you know the meaning, I have given you the hint. So please leave your comments below and we can discuss that. Or you have to wait for the time we actually do the series on Surah Al-Kahf. So thou wouldst have thought them awake whilst they were in the state of ruqud. And we turned them on their right and on their left sides, their dogs stretching forth his two forelegs on the threshold. If thou hadst looked at them, thou wouldst have certainly turned back from them in flight, and would certainly have been filled with terror of them. Imagine the scenario, the scene, the sight. A few men And now there are multiple miracles in this verse. A verse, ayah itself means a sign. The multiple signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse. Why were they made to turn right and left? Good question, isn't it? We don't think like these today. We've lost this habit of critical thinking. That is because they would have otherwise got bed sores. Imagine patients who are unable to, whose mobility has been greatly restricted, they develop bed sores on their back. So this was done deliberately so as to keep them fresh, turning them right and left. And in that particular state of rukud, okay, and imagine them, a few people, and they were in that cave, and a dog. I mean, it was, as I told you, it was unnatural for someone to pass through that side of the face of the cave, that side of the cave. But even if someone were to, it would have been difficult for them to sight them. And even if they managed to view them through the diffuse sunlight or whatever reason, imagine the dog protecting them at the entrance of the cave. So this certainly would have created a fear amongst them, and they would have run away from them. Such being their state, we raise them up that they might question each other. Again, the same word, bahsanahum. It doesn't mean we raise them, we also send them, that the thought should come to them that they will question each other. Ba'atha means to send, that the thought should come to them. It's itself a miracle. Coupled with that, the word raised can also be used as a secondary meaning to return them from that state of rukud to this state, their normal state of wakefulness. Uh, it's amazing that one word which serves double purpose and so eloquently has it been captured in this verse, such being the state, we raise them up from, or we rather return them from that state to their normal state of wakefulness, and simultaneously we send them, basnahum, we send them with this thought. What? The idea they might question each other. Who questions after waking up? More so when they think that we have rested for a day or part of a day. I mean, that they might question each other. Said one of them, how long have you stayed here? They said, we stayed perhaps a day or part of a day. They said, Allah alone knows best how long you have stayed here. Now send ye one of you with this money of yours, this silver coin. The word used biwarikikum. So with this warik of yours, hazihi, this warik silver coin, kum of yours, to the town, ilal madinati, to the town. Let him find out which is the best food to be had, and bring some to you, that he may satisfy your hunger therewith. And let him behave with care and courtesy, and let him not inform anyone about it. So profound this verse is for a number of reasons. One of the reasons we deliberately decide not to discuss and explore, it will create confusion if I try to just give you the idea. Okay, let me give you the idea. Uh, how many people were there in the cave? How many people were there in the cave? This question itself is not very important. It's irrelevant how many people were there, whether there were three or five or seven or a different number or six or eight doesn't really matter to us. And a discussion would crop up in the next few verses of the Quran about this specific aspect that don't go into these arguments. But is it possible for us to know, to determine how many of them were there in that cave? I say it is possible. And again, I don't want controversies. We can do that, and we will inshallah do that in our series on Surah Al-Kahf. But this verse number 19, gives a clue. I've given it enough hints. If you think you know the answer or you can derive, use your critical reasoning, use your understanding of the verse of the Quran. And I have to also give you one more hint that you need to look at the Arabic. The English will not give you a good idea because English has been translated in a way which actually creates some confusion. It will be actually easy for you to come to the understanding, to the correct understanding how many people were there. Even then, you say it's not important. And did you notice the word warik is being used in this verse? Warik is a silver coin. And how many points are being mentioned in this verse is amazing. Warik is a silver coin, like a dirham. So Why is Warik mentioned? Is it because of an accident? Why is this part of the story mentioned? Is it because of some accidental narration or a chance narration? No. It has profound wisdom in it that in Akhiru Zaman, the only thing that will be of help to you is silver coin or a gold coin for that matter, a dinar, a dirham, a dinar or a dirham. Warik means a silver coin. So a gold coin or a silver coin, dinar, dirham or warik. Dinar means gold coin, and dirham is silver coin, and warik is also silver coin. So there's also another hadith in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, where it says that a time will come upon mankind when nothing will be beneficial or useful to a human being except a dinar or a dirham, and that needs elaborate analysis. We can't go into that. Basically, in short, the paper currency that we are using will all be rendered useless. The sooner you realize this, the better for you, and you will then. It is only then will you be able to strategize what you are supposed to do in Akhiru Zaman. Why Akhiru Zaman? Because the surah is relevant, is the most important in Akhiru Zaman because it will protect you from the fitna of the Dajjal, and Dajjal, the emergence of the Dajjal, the Khuruj of the Dajjal will be in Akhiru Zaman. So the money aspect is the how many people are there in the cave. That aspect is highlighted, and what else is highlighted? The Basnahum, the two things are explained with that, and then it says that so that he brings food for you, which is pure. This aspect is important, warning you about the harmful effects of genetically modified food. So that aspect is being highlighted, and the fact that the word yatalattaf, this word, which is usually if you read the Musaf, it's waliyata lataf, is the absolutely the middle, the center word of the Quran, the entire Quran. Surah Kahf is at the center of the Quran in the Musaf, and this word waliyata lataf is at the center of the entire Quran, the centralmost word. And what is the meaning of waliyata lataf? It's be cautious. We are being, and it's not by accident that this word was placed in the middle of the Quran, at the center of the Quran. It's for a reason that you are being reminded to be cautious about the Quran, about Surah Al Kahf, about the story of the people of the cave, about the story of the Ashabul Kahf, of the story of the companions of the cave. And this is pivotal to our understanding of the fitna of the Dajjal and seeking protection by means of understanding the story of this story and of the entire Surah Al Kahf. So, a reminder, a very important reminder. So, you can imagine. I mean, I'm just finding it difficult to compress it. And you'd have noticed by the time we are done with this surah, it would have taken way more time compared to the other surahs. There's no way I could have compressed it further. And when we actually do the surah in details in a separate series, we'll have a separate session for each of the verses. Okay, so verse number 20. For if they should come upon you, they would stone you or force you to return to their religion, and in that case, you would never attain prosperity. Thus, did make the cause haste known to the people that they might know that the promise of Allah is true, and that there can be no doubt about the hour of judgment. Behold, they dispute among themselves as to their affair. Some said, construct a building over them. The Lord knows best about them. Those who prevailed over the affair said, let us surely build a place of worship over them. Some say they were three, the dog being the fourth among them. Others say they were five, the dog being the sixth, doubtfully guessing at the unknown. Yet others say they were seven, the dog being the eighth. Say thou, my Lord knoweth best the number. It is but few that know the real case. Enter not, therefore, into controversies concerning them, except on a matter that is clear, and nor consult any of them about the affair of the sleepers. So this is verse number 22 in conjunction with verse number 19. Verse number 19 is an independent proof of the number of people there were, and verse number 22 if you're able to penetrate deeply into the understanding through critical thinking and the use of grammar, you would come to the same conclusion about the number of people. Even then, it says don't enter into arguments, unnecessary arguments. It's of no use. Uh, my Lord knows best the number. Say, my Lord knows best the number. But it doesn't stop there. That the only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows their number. No, it says it is but few that know that. It is but few. So it does not negate, it states that though the number of people are very few, but still there are people who can actually give you that number based on the analysis or the understanding of Surah Al-Kahf. So if someone says it's not possible to know, they are actually denying this. If you don't know, you don't say that no one else knows. You're denying a verse of the Quran. The Quran says, this verse says, verse number 22, that there are people who know, and it's possible to understand and derive it from these two verses, and independent it will give you the same conclusion. And when two are used as a collective evidence, then it strengthens your evidence further. Okay, nor say, this verse number 23, nor say of anything I shall be sure to do so and so tomorrow, except if Allah so wills, inshallah. And remember thy Lord when thou forgettest, and say, I hope that my Lord will guide me ever closer, even than this, to the right course. The story is that the Prophet ﷺ, when the pagans of Makkah, after they had visited the Jews who were in Medina at that time, the rabbis, the scholars amongst them, and they came back with the three questions. The Prophet ﷺ, it had slipped his mind to say inshallah, and he had said, it's a human tendency that you come back tomorrow and give you the answer. Now, there are two things at the back of his mind. First, primarily, this is not to degrade the Prophet, rather it is supposed to serve as an instruction for us. That's why this verse, or this part, verse number 23 and 24, is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, in Akhir Zaman, when people will become negligent in saying inshallah. And those who will say, there is three terms which I use: misuse, and abuse. They will forget the use of inshallah, and those who they will not just misuse, they will rather abuse the word inshallah. And that is a shirk, and we don't want to discuss about that aspect in this series. We will do so inshallah in the detailed discussion on Surah Al-Kahf. But this was one of the reasons so that it might act as a reminder for us in Akhir Zaman. And remember, it's mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf to us as a reminder, Surah Al-Kahf, which is related to Akhir Zaman. And secondly, it so happened for the past few nights, the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, he was visiting the Prophet ﷺ, and so the Prophet ﷺ thought that when this night Jibreel alayhi salam would come, he would ask that question and he would get the answer. So this momentary lapse, the slip of mind, you can say, and for 14 or 15 days, the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, Gabriel, peace be upon him, did not come. And imagine the situation that was in Makkah at that time, the difficult situation that the Muslims had to go through, the ridicule, the mockery they had to face, because this was meant as a challenge to test the validity of the claim, whether the Prophet ﷺ was a true or a false prophet. So they stayed in the cave, verse number 25, so they stayed in their cave 300 years and 9 more. What a profound way to conclude this surah. Not the surah, sorry, this story. There is one more verse. This is the penultimate verse about the story, and then it's followed by a short message. So you remember in verse number 12, which was part of our introduction, verse number 12, in fact it's verse number 11. Verse number 11, وَضَرَبْنَا عَلَىٰ آذَانِهِمْ فِي الْكَهْفِ سِنِينَ عَدَدًا. They were in the cave for a number of years, and the exact number of years was not highlighted because it is irrelevant. Whether they were there even for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, even that would have been a miracle. So that is irrelevant to our discussion, but the exact number of years is given towards the last of the story, in the penultimate verse of the story. Now, as a conclusion, Allah is giving you more information. It has nothing to do with wisdom, it's to do with information. So they stayed in the cave 300 years and 9 more. What a profound way. How would I have stated? Now there was a confusion, and people argued with each other whether they were in the cave for 300 years, or some people argued that they were in the cave for 309 years based on what they had heard from their scholars. So they were divided into two camps. So the correct understanding is both are correct simultaneously. And today we come to know that the 300 years being referred to is refers to the solar years, and the 309 years refers to the lunar years, and 300 solar years is equivalent to 309 lunar years. So what an amazing way. The way a human being, a normal human being, people like you and me would speak, or anyone else for that matter would speak like this. Okay, so they were in their cave for 300 solar years, which comes to 309 lunar years. That would be our mode of speech. But look at the speech of Allah. They were in so they stayed in the cave 300 years, and some add 9 more, and both are correct. And how beautifully it has been put. Remember also that there were only two groups, and they argued with each other. Some said it's 300, some said it's 309, without understanding why they were saying such a thing, or how the two groups had preserved their traditions. In any case, even this is not that important, but then this is just an information, just like the number of people that can be derived from verses 19 and 20 is just an additional piece of information. It doesn't alter the miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say, this is the last verse of the story of the people of the cave, of the companions of the cave of Ashabul Kahf. Say, Allah knows best how long they stayed. Again, it's mentioned in verse 25 that it's giving the number of years, but then it says, Allah knows best how long they stayed. With Him is the knowledge of the secrets of the Samawat and the Ard. Now that we have given you the meaning of Samawat, As-Samawat wal Ard, we can use that translation, or we can keep the Arabic word. How clearly He sees, how finely He hears everything. They have no protector other than Him, nor does He share His command with any person whatsoever. This brings us to the close. Again, so it says, don't argue about that. That's not the part of the miracle. Now, this story was about the Dajjal. This story. How? Why? Let's leave that for a separate discussion, possibly during a discussion on Surah Al-Kahf, the detailed series. But for now, with the information that I have given you, you can take it as some food for thought, some food for critical thinking, and try to figure out why. Is the Dajjal mentioned by name in this story? No, it is not. Then how come? So we will explain that aspect. And if you think you know, please leave a comments below and we'll discuss, or you have to wait until the time we actually are able to come up with the separate series. As I said towards the beginning, that Surah Al-Kahf, the arrangement is such that there are there is a message and a story interspersed. There are 5 stories which is interspersed with messages. So message, story, and this pattern continues. So we had the message, the story, the first story has come to an end. Verses 27 to 30 to 31 will be the short message before we move ahead with story number 2 from verse number 32. So let's complete this message and recite. This is verse number 27. The message begins from this verse. And to recite and teach what has been revealed to thee of the book of thy Lord. None can change his words, and none will thou find as a refuge other than him. And keep yourself content with those who call on their Lord, morning and evening, seeking his face. And let not thine eyes pass beyond them, seeking the pomp and glitter of this life, nor obey any whose heart we have permitted to neglect the remembrance of us, one who follows his own desires, and his affair has become all excess. Say, the truth is from your Lord. وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ. Say, the truth is from your Lord. Let him who will believe, and let him who will reject it. For the wrongdoers we have prepared a fire whose smoke and flames, like the walls and roof of a tent, will hem them in. If they If they implore relief, they will be granted water like melted copper that will scald their faces. How dreadful the drink, how uncomfortable a couch to recline on. As to those who believe and work righteousness, verily we shall not suffer to perish the reward of any who do a single righteous deed. For them will be gardens of eternity, beneath them uh, rivers will flow. They will be adorned therein with bracelets of gold, and they will wear green garments of fine silk and heavy brocade. They will recline therein on raised thrones. How good the recompense! How beautiful a couch to recline on. This brings us to the short message, which is very simple, really, to understand and appreciate. So far, what we have covered is the introductory message, verses 1 to 8, the story, the first story, the story number 1, the story of Ashabul Kahf, verses 9 to 26, and then we have just done the message 2, verses 27 to 31. Verse number 32 onwards will be the story number 2, the story of the two men, Rajulain, Rajulaini, Rajulain, the two men, the story of the two men. So let's do that tomorrow, inshallah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.